All right, cool. Welcome everyone to our third weekly sync, TCL-65. Second weekly sync if we're counting in binary, I think, right? Or index of two weekly sync. Yes. Cool. So I think today we are going to start things off with demos. Then we're doing our very first retro. Super fun stuff. And then we'll take a look at the issues for the upcoming week. And then we will break and meet off in Slacklandia. Cool. So I'm going to hand it over to Matt, who's going to be kind of leading the issues.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, so we're going to start off, like Mike said, with demos. So the pairs this week were Isaiah, Patty, and Shannon, Lydia. So I will leave it up to whichever pair wants to go first. So it's very similar to last week. If you want to, I mean, it's kind of up to you what order you want. But often you kind of demo it on production or some type of live demo and then walk us through the code. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So yeah, whoever wants to kick us off, feel free. I could also pick.
You're both gonna have to do it. So like
I think we could do it. How do you feel, Isaiah?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want to share it? You want to start?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay, cool.
And then yeah, a similar thing. If one person wants to kind of drive or navigate, and the other person talk, it's usually a nice way to share duties.
Okay.
Patty, do you want me to drive, or I could drive if you want. I have it pulled up.
Oh, sure. So that, okay, yeah. Let's have it all pulled up. That's great.
Okay. I'll share my screen.
Great.
Okay. Does this look good, guys?
Yeah, we can see it. I'm just gonna pull up the issue on my computer too.
Okay, perfect.
So I
yeah.
can talk about it because I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, no worries. I can also put up the issue as well.
I don't know. Do people want to see that? Or we could like link it. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I guess the pull request is gone now.
Oh.
But the issue probably isn't.
It would be under the closed.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to add new item to my shopping list. Okay, yeah, so we worked on issue number 4, which is titled, as a user, I want to add a new item to my shopping list so I can start recording purchases. Let's see. So actually we missed kind of like how to do the demo last week. So I assume I kind of just talk about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Should I run it real quick?
Yeah, that would be great, I think. Should I read through the issue or just kind of touch on it?
Yeah, I say if you want, you can read through the issue and then you can just tell about how we ended up doing it. So
okay, yeah. So let's see. The summary of the issue is users need to be able to add items to their shopping lists. To do this, the add item view should present them with a form that allows them to enter 2 things, the name of the item and an estimate of when they think they'll need to buy the item again. And so, yeah, you can see that Isaiah has the form pulled up with our updated code, and it's the add item page, and then there's an input for item name, and there's a drop down input for how soon you'll buy it again. And there's three options, just kind of copied the issue request for soon, kind of soon, not soon. And those all are indicate 7, 14, or 30 days, basically. We also wanted to make sure that the input has a semantic label. And if you look at the code, you can see that we used that on line 30. Yeah, and you can also see that if you look in the dev tools, but I don't really think that's necessary. And we also wanted to make sure that when you submit the form with enter or hit the submit button with your mouse, it will work. That works. Actually, Isaiah and I were like, why does this work? It isn't really something we knew. Our guess was because the form in the code had an on submit versus using on submit with the button. Let's see, and then when the user submits the form, they see a message indicating that the item either was or was not saved. So you can see the item was saved to the database message. And there's also one for when it's not saved. Okay, so then the other tasks to do were data related. So I think we mostly did that in the Firebase JS file under the API folder. If we want to look there, and then maybe we'll come back to the add item page to look at kind of like our click handler.
Yeah.
So let's see, the console log. Okay, so in the originally there was already like a function laid out here that had it returned a console log with kind of the info for the new item. And so then when we were working on this, actually we ended up looking at like an older Firebase application that I had made to just kind of look at how it was done before. And that's where we found this on line 58. You'll see the add doc function. This is from the Firebase Firestore module, which we imported in. And using that with a combination of which collection from the database you're using. So that's where it says list collection ref. And then an object with the parameters of the new item that we're adding. Firebase kind of like under the hood is adding it to the collection. So, but then we also added some error handling, kind of some basic error handling. We thought maybe we would expand on it later, maybe not. And so that's where you see that try catch. And then we did forget to put this error on the add item page, but luckily Lydia caught that, so it updates the message now as well. Okay, and then before we go off the Firebase, just to point out, or the Firebase JS file. Oh yeah, thanks, Isaiah. Just to point out that the last pieces that the date next purchase gets calculated on line 61 with this get future date function that comes from the utility. I think it comes from the utilities file. And so that came again with the application to calculate based on what number or how soon you think you'll order it again. We turn that into a number and then we calculate what the next future date for purchasing it. So that I think is all elements of that. Does that sound right, Isaiah?
Yeah, we did that in the add item JSX. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so then I think if we want to look at the add item JSX one last time to just go over the click handler. Okay, yeah, so our handle submit function, I think this also came with the application, so we ended up adding, again, this try catch. And then if you scroll down, you can see in the, if you look at the input for, yeah, the anticipation, we changed the drop down for 45 and through 47. So the value was just directly the number of days, and then the what you saw, like the displayed title of each value, was the terms that we were asked to use. And then because that will be a string, that's why in the click handler, the handle submit function, you'll see that we converted it to an integer, kind of right off the bat. And then using state, we kind of like on change for each of the inputs, update the state, so that when you hit submit, whatever you have in the form will be submitted. And then oh yeah, so then this add item function on line 14, that comes from maybe also Firebase. Yeah, oh yeah, sorry, that's where we got where we were looking at before. So that function came with the application, and then we implemented it here and updated it to make this issue resolved. Yeah, did you have anything to add, Isaiah?
No, and then I think the only thing is, Shannon and Lydia brought up some requests for changes when we originally did it.
Yeah.
One thing that we had forgot is we had put error handling in the Firebase. So there was error handling here. So it was showing, if there was an error, it was showing it in the console. But it wasn't showing it on the message, because originally it was just showing this message. And no matter what would happen, it would keep showing that message, even if there was an error. So it wasn't in a try catch originally, so I just had to put it in the try catch. And the other issue is that it wasn't resetting, so then we just reset state after each time the user submitted it. And then if there was an error, we was able to log the error and show it to the user.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Nice, thank you. I don't know if it's possible. I was just curious if there was a way to see that the item was added to the Firebase database.
I mean, we can pull up the database.
Oh,
If
if
it's
you go
quick,
to
I don't want to
list,
spend too much time. I trust it, but
if you go to the list route, if you click the list button at the bottom, after you add it, it won't be on the list, and then after
Oh, you're
you add
right. You're right. That's an easy way to say it. Okay, so there's a lot of items right now. So
yeah.
the test item Sunday,
for Matthew.
yeah, for Matthew. Okay,
No, that was great though. Thank you walked through everything.
so test item Sunday for Matthew.
Oh, nice.
There's a lot right now. We don't have a delete button yet, so
That's fun.
yeah, everything we've ever done is here.
I have some questions about the error handling. Like, why did you choose to display a message instead of an alert? Similarly, when you display a message, why don't you have a set timeout? Like, is there a reason? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's actually probably
Okay.
more right this way. I'm just curious why you made that choice.
Wait, what was the first one?
Well, so you could have handled the error in a variety of ways, right? You could have an alert pop up.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
that
that's
didn't work, right?
Yeah.
But you chose to not do that. And I'm wondering, like, can you explain why? And similarly, when that does happen, that message stays up for eternity or until I leave the page, right? And you could have a set timeout where that message would disappear. And I'm wondering, again, why doesn't it disappear?
Yeah, I think oh, I have some thoughts, unless you wanted to say something, Isaiah.
You can feel free to go ahead.
Okay, yes. Okay, so for the first one, I just got over COVID, so I feel like I'm having a little brain fog.
Always.
But
There really is no like, there's no right answer because the like what you chose to do is actually like not wrong.
oh yeah,
I'm just
no, okay,
curious.
thank you. Yeah. I'm just like tracking the alert part of the question for some reason. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
what is it? Okay, so not using the alert. Well, I think just to begin with, that wasn't really on our mind, like in our something we were considering. I think probably because we've both seen messages used before as like something that works, and it's kind of like something that we've seen in React applications and that we've worked on. And then the other pieces, for at least for me, like I've always heard alerts are not good to use. And so that's kind of like, I think it wasn't something we had like talked about together and considered, but I think for both of us, um we haven't really considered other options. And I would say it's probably because for me, at least, I can say like I've seen messages used a lot, so it feels kind of like a standard way to display an error message. And actually same with the set timeout. It wasn't something that we'd considered. Seems like it could be a useful idea, but then uh
I one thing I think with the timeout is if we set a timeout, I mean, what if a user submitted, walked away, came back
yep,
and wondered why his form was never submitted,
or
and
what happened, yeah.
time and then the error message was gone. That's something I could see be an issue. So yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. So I
but
think
but I mean, it's something we can maybe talk about down the line, and then maybe there could be a better solution.
Great. Well,
it
thank
could be
you.
like a button to get rid of the error.
Right, like an X or
Accept.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about like the customer experience, like customer flow and like what alerts do when the customer is going through. And I just did a huge workshop a few months ago about neurodivergent users and the role of like alerts. And apparently it can completely interrupt their flow. So you
Yeah.
never use alerts for them. I don't know, but I thought it was interesting that you guys chose to not do that. And I was just like trying to give a talking point as to why. And then also for like the set timeout thing. I don't know about you guys, but like at work, I work with like a marijuana, like a cannabis company right now. And a lot of our users are forgetful. Um, and so like having that alert there and not timing out is super important for us. Similarly, if you work for like last time I did this, I worked with a mentor who worked for like a company that makes stuff for seniors, and they need that alert that stays there. So my super clever idea of setting a timeout immediately got a okay, well, what if you're old? Response.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, or increasingly more if you have like long COVID.
Long COVID, or if you're alt tabbing. I don't know about you, but like I have 60 tabs open. I'm not always
Yeah,
paying attention.
yeah. Low attention span, you like submit and then just start doing something else.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, no, those are great points. And I think with a lot of UI or UX stuff, it's all conversation. Some things have more validity for sure. Yeah, that's a lot to think about. Because I know we do timeouts with our alerts at my company. So
Right?
yeah, it's definitely a discussion. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I think next would be Shannon and Lydia. If one of you want to share.
Lydia, do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
All right, wait a second. Can you see it? Are my Zoom controls? You can't see my Zoom controls, right? Are they in
Yeah,
the?
I cannot.
All right.
All right, let's start with, unless you already did, making sure that there isn't a token.
Opening up.
Okay, it's there. Yeah, great. Okay, so when a user navigates to the site for the first time, they'll go to the homepage and have that create a new list button available. And then when you click create a new list, it will create a new list token. And it will direct the user to the list page. And then the user can't, if the user tries to navigate back to the home page, they will be redirected to the list page. And if you wouldn't mind deleting that again, because yeah. And refreshing the page, it should take us back to the home page, and then we can't navigate to the list page because there is no list yet. And the way that we implemented that in the code, to start with, we imported the generate token function from the Collab Labs shopping list utility library.
Sorry, girl.
No worries. And so the first function, there's the first step under app is setting state with use state with storage. We changed that so that the list would be null, which is what prevents the user from navigating. It's part of what prevents the user from navigating to a list when they don't have a list yet. And then there's handle new token is an event handler that creates a new token. Like the comments say, if there's no token, then that function does nothing. Or if there is a function, goodness. If there is a token, then the function does nothing. And if there isn't, then it will use the set list token function to generate or to add the newly generated token into state in local storage for the user. And what we also did there was we implemented redirects. So we implemented them down here in the routes by creating a ternary, which will, depending on if a list token is present, either deliver the home or list page address, or will navigate the user to or send the user, redirect the user to the appropriate page if they don't have the right amount of list token to view the page they want to see. Yeah, we also in home implemented or called the handle new token function if the user clicks on the button. And I think that's it. Is there anything else, Shannon?
I think that you did great. I think that you explained it really well. We imported link component. We're using,
Yeah.
calling this, passing this down from the app.js function and then using it here to help this functionality work with the button. Just like FYI, I read a whole bunch of stuff over the past few days of like, Patty had made that suggestion, like, is it the best way to like wrap this button and stuff? And after reading, I think that we could have used something like navigate, like a hook of some kind. I don't know if what this is going to do down the road, if it's like, from what I read, it's not the best way to do it. Like this component is just really used for something else, but we got it to work. And then another thing that I just wanted to add, like yesterday while I was looking at the page, I think it's re-rendering every time we click home. And I don't know if that's an issue or how we make it stop, but I think that's what the flashing is. I'm not sure, but just side note, I think the flashing is the page reloading itself over and over again. And I think the way that we would stop that is like with like a dependency array, or there's a little piece of code that's missing somewhere. Other than that, I don't think I have anything to add, except that I would like to add that this is super awesome. This is what, when we installed that dependency in the beginning, it allowed us to use this. This thing is like lifting. This is like a heavy lifter right here. So it's allowing us, after we installed that, it's what is allowing us to like pull this, generate token and set list. I just thought that was so cool. I'm not totally sure what that thing is doing, but it's doing a lot. And that's why I think why we brought that dependency in, because that function had been written to do a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to handle a bunch of stuff down the road, it looks like, too. And that's it. Any questions? Hopefully not, because I don't know what you can explain anything.
I have a question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So Lydia's here too.
On the on this app JSX online for the handle new token function.
Up here.
I'm curious why you have like if there is a list token return versus having the whole function just ask if there's no list token, then set the list token. I'm curious what that does.
You're curious as why we picked that or what this does. This honestly, I think that in this function, along with what you're asking, is also where we might be able to handle that reload of the page. I don't ask the question again. Sorry, Patty. I'm like,
It's okay. Yeah, I guess the return, like if there is a list token, return it. Like what returning the function does versus just saying like having the whole function only set a list token if there's no list token. Does this make sense? Like it's the return piece that I'm like, what does having return in there do? It's something that I wasn't sure about.
I thought that having it return for can you explain it, Lydia? I won't jump in.
It does the same thing. If we
Right.
had said if there's no list token, then set the list token.
Yeah.
It would just, if there was a list token, then it would skip that step and return. So it does the same thing.
Okay, yeah.
It's achieving the same thing with slightly different syntax.
So
Okay.
it's returning and it's keeping us at home, correct?
Mhm.
And then if it's not, it's generating us a token and we go to list. Does that sound right?
I think it wouldn't keep us at home if we already have a list token, because we should be redirected away from home
All right.
if we have a list token.
Oh yeah.
So we use
Early
it
returns.
down here.
Yeah, it looks, at least at my first, I wasn't able to do code review, but yeah, it just looks like a different type of syntax. Like an alternative maybe would have been like, if not list token, do the set list token method, and then nothing else is in there. I mean, they both work, like you're saying, they both work the same way, but it's different structure.
I found
But
this to be pretty hard, honestly. Like I was, not only did I find it hard to like do it, but I was having a really hard time not getting confused. It was bad. I was like, wait, what is the button supposed to be? Are we supposed to be going to list or home? And then like the code wasn't working, and this one was difficult for me. Definitely I found it hard to get it to work. So it was exciting when it did.
Nice. Yeah, it's always good feeling. Yeah, I'd be happy if we want to set time afterward to chat with it, chat through it more. I just want to be conscious of time for the other things that we have planned, but overall, I'd say great job. But yeah, if you do want to put anything on the calendar, I'd be happy to help chat through it more. Any other final questions before I think we have the retrospective next.
Speaking of which,
Pass it on.
the retrospective that's not filled out by anybody. It's in the chat.
I
I have,
looked at it. I didn't fill anything out because I've never seen it in my life before, and I didn't know what to
and
say.
it's our first time doing it, and I
Okay.
was late doing it.
Okay.
It was actually my job to do, and then Mike noticed that I hadn't done it on Thursday. And was like, do you need me to put that together? And I was like, yes, please, I'm drowning. I had somebody pass away in a close project of mine this week. So I've kind of been racing and trying to get my stuff done as well. So I apologize. Also, your code reviews are done, but they were done yesterday. I should have been sooner. It is in the what can be improved. This is a retrospective. It is a backwards look at what we did well. It's like nice, fuzzy, warm, like shout outs, which I love. It's, you know, things that can be improved on. And then like what we learned moving forward to take us into the next week is sort of like the traditional end of like sprint usually. Part of like agile development. I think they're great because I like saying good things about other people. I think we don't do it enough. And I often get really down on myself when I develop. I decide that I'm the worst developer of all time and I didn't do something right, you know? So I like hearing what went well. And then I really like setting goals. So that's what this is. I think what we can do probably, if it's okay with everybody, is if I just throw 2 minutes onto a timer and then everybody can just go in and fill it out. You can just save your answers as a draft. Does that sound about appropriate? What do you think?
Are we doing like
fill
2
it
minutes of swim lane, or are we doing like 2 minutes for everything?
I was just gonna say 2 minutes for everything. Is that wild?
Yeah, maybe I like don't do well under time pressure. Like 3, maybe.
Okay, what if I say it's 3 and then I ping you at 2:30 and I'm like, time's up?
Okay, cool.
I'm kidding.
As long as I don't know that that's
Oh,
gonna
I've
happen.
ruined it already. Okay, well, let me just pull up my screen.
Are we starting now? Sorry.
Yes, there's a timer. There we go.
Okay, so we're filling it out, right?
Yeah. A thing that somebody or several people did that you appreciate. Something that went really well. Something that you'd like to improve for next week, or like something that you learned about how to improve, and then something that you learned overall. How are we doing? Do we want more time or do we want to start moving? How do we feel?
Maybe like a minute.
How about 2 minutes? How are we doing? We got it? Yeah. Cool. Let's is that sharing it? Retro?
I think it was, and now we're looking
No,
at
it's
it.
not. Now we're looking at something else. Okay,
Google.
let's do this. Yes. Oh, there we go. Let's go. All of my vacation planning, you guys like that? Awesome. So let's just read through these really quickly. I added Mike to the appreciation board immediately because he realized that I was drowning. I was like, can I set this up for you? And I really appreciate it. I also thought that it was cool that Patty was asking some questions that were insightful, and they indicated that you had run the program, I thought, which is critical. It doesn't always happen. Isaiah doing the revisions. That well, Shannon was able to handle all of our Zoom stuff. Patty being the leader and checking in and making sure that people are feeling heard. Feeling like people are on top of their stuff, which is, I feel like the other mentors are on top of it, so it's huge. That Isaiah is great to team up with. That Shannon is a good communicator, scheduling, and Patty's held code to high standard, which is true. I've noticed that as well. And that's just everybody. Everybody's great. He's enjoying his time. Cool. What went well? I said that I love that we're having a really healthy discussion in the GitHub comments. I went in to go comment on the code, and I've been watching it all week and sort of like watching the problems come up and then watching it get solved, which is really, really fun. And I appreciate that this group feels vulnerable enough to be able to share like, hey, so we're doing this and like there's this problem, but like we're here so far, which is awesome because it allows like the problem to be solved by multiple people, but also tells us that we're in an environment where that's okay to do. And that's amazing. It makes me very happy. I also appreciate that you guys are getting things done earlier in the week because that Wednesday office hours didn't need it this week, but there will be weeks when you need it. And it comes in handy so that it's not like coming down to code review, which is typically like the later half of the week. And then you get a code review and you're like, oh, well, hey partner, are you available in the next 6 hours because we want to demo this? And then, you know what I mean? So I super appreciate that. Matt said that he appreciates everybody doing a great job with their communications. That he's like popping in the threads, which is, I share that as well. You guys are answering and asking good questions. Zoom calls are already set up, which is incredible. It's also just a really good habit to get started. He's dead right. The good job getting put early. Yes, it did. Everybody's communicating openly, transparently in Slack, which is awesome. It also gives us an idea how long you're taking. Because if it's taking too long, it's the program and not you. And that means that we can stop other people from going through it. So good.
Can I chime in just one
Yeah, please.
additional thing here that like I really like that it's a lot of times really tempting to be like DMing the person that you're working with or other people in the group. And I'm not sure if there are behind the scenes like lots of DMs happening, but I like that there's a lot that is like transparent and in the threads. And that really makes like future us it's like a documentation for the future that's really great because people have questions and you can go and search it in Slack and stuff like that. And sometimes it's really difficult to like ask a question publicly, and I think everyone's doing a really great job of that. Really appreciate it.
That's such a good point. I used to like be very scared to ask questions. And so I like asked them in DM just in case they were didn't come off the way that I want myself to come off as a developer, because I want to come off like I know enough to be there, and sometimes I don't always feel like I do. But the reality is we all feel that way, and asking those questions means that other people benefit from it. Good show, Mike. Really good show. And the code reviews have been really good because I went through the review and I was like, well, what do I say? Like I can comment on some stylistic things and like there's some accessibility discussions that we can have here, but there's nothing really wrong. It's more like, what do you think? And what's the generally accepted practice? And like Matt was saying that he does one thing in his job with the set timeout for a message. Whereas at my job, well, in my current position, if you did that, we would have like a lot of calls into our support devs, I think. Which is like, that's a cool one. I don't know. I find that stuff really interesting. But yes, thank you for the thorough code reviews. I also think it makes you a better coder eventually to be able to be critical.
Yeah.
I used to think I couldn't criticize other people's code because my code wasn't perfect. Like that's not true, but I certainly thought it was true. So yeah, cool. Glad I like all that stuff. What can we improve? This is the fun part. It's where we try and learn from what happened in the previous weeks to make the coming weeks better. Because if we don't do that, especially as a development team, what I find at least that you just start going through all the tickets and you're and if you don't stop and fix things, all of those little temporary solutions that you make to get through something become your permanent solution. And you don't want your temporary solution to be a permanent solution. Yeah. So I said faster code review. It could also have been more thorough. It's just your code review was so thorough of each other that I had nothing to say particularly. Like the whole button thing. You don't have to have a button, but you can. You can also style the button. Do you want to have a discussion about like the semantics of that? Because sometimes when we're navigating using like assistive technology, it can be better to say button. And then other times it's better to not say button. And then there's a discussion of like the trade-offs of accessibility, because it can potentially like visually cloud the experience. So like what's worth more and whatever. And this is why Mike is the master front-end designer, not improve how to do PRs. We did talk about that a little bit, but all the PRs are pretty good. There was one PR, I submitted them all last night. There was one PR where all of the accessibility criteria hadn't been checked off. You can do that for yourself. You're totally capable of doing it. Everything was met in that particular PR. And GitHub automates when you put those check marks in, so like those square brackets. If you don't put a little X in it, and it has to be space X space, which is like the markup for this is checked off, or marked down, excuse me. You don't do it that exactly that way. GitHub will say like the PR has solved, I think the time was 8 out of 12 issues. But when you download it and you run it, it's solved all of them. It's just like a formatting thing in the PR, and it matters exactly 0. Finishing the PRs earlier, being more curious with PR and comments. I thought they were pretty good, but yeah, we could work on that. Matt trying to blame himself for having a very important life. And if you ever put this in front of your daughter, I would be livid with you. So I'm glad you made the right choice. Gameplay meetings before demos. True, but those work pretty well. I never did it, but that's because I didn't take advantage of all this practice time with demos. That's why I was saying at the beginning, do it even if it scares you, because I promise you this is way less scary than doing it in an interview, or being an interview not having it, or doing it in a job where you're like, oh, I'm still in my probation period. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be the easiest it ever is.
Can I chime in again?
Yeah, please.
More time? Yeah, like in my job, we do weekly demos in front of stakeholders, and it's a general agile practice. And really, our preparation for that is usually like a few minutes about like who's going to demo what, and then how do we show that, right? Like, oh, this one was very like technical. It's tough to show to a non-technical person. What do we do to display that? And usually, it's literally like 2 to 3 minutes of just like thinking that through and then assigning who's going to do what. And I think that those, that short period you could do like right after you merged your PR or something like that, goes a long way in really polishing up the demo.
Do you guys use presentation mode or anything like that at your work, Mike?
What was that? Sorry.
Do you guys use presentation mode or anything like that at your work when you're trying to show code? Because that's something that I learned here that I took with me.
No, we don't really. Actually, yeah, I don't know what it is. So
yeah, so it's like this VS Code is Aditya. So this mentor from, well, he used to be at Goldman Sachs, but I don't know where he is now. He taught me about presentation mode and how to ace interviews and ace my technical presentations because I was selling software using presentation mode in VS Code. It blows up your text. It like focuses on very specific snippets of code. It just makes everything go a lot smoother and cleaner. I wish I had known about that earlier, and I wish I had started practicing with that earlier. There's a whole bunch of other VS Code extensions. That's just the one that I personally know. That's like, makes it so you're not staring at a giant thing of code and like alt tabbing around, and makes things very beautiful. And you look like you really know what you're doing when actually you've got this extension. So that's a potential idea if people want to practice that, especially if you're going into interviews and your interviews are going to involve technical take-homes and you're going to have to present your technical take-home. It's just one of those ways to stand out. I just thought about that when we were talking about this. I was going to recommend it for the sort of like final demo when we're all showing the entire thing. But practicing it now can't hurt. Things we learned. So it also makes me sad. I love retros because not only do you learn how to be like better moving forward, but they're just so happy. I feel like nobody's ever negative in them, and like I always leave like a feeling of renewed energy for whatever I'm doing. So very excited about them. I said we learned about buttons and links, which is cool. You got to go do some more reading on that, Shannon. That's awesome. There's actually like an accessibility argument to have the button, by the way, because like for me as somebody who's using a screen reader sometimes, it says button, and I appreciate that because I know it's clickable versus link, which like sometimes not all links are necessarily clickable, and it's not always clearly done because people haven't made their application accessible. So sometimes buttons are choices. Anyway, I thought that was cool that we're learning with that and talking about accessibility choices from the beginning, because it's much easier to think about it in the beginning than it is to go back and fix it. And I don't know, I feel like Mike and Matt probably know about this. Maybe you guys know about it too, but like Domino's Pizza and the giant like Yeah, I it was like many, many like, thousands of dollars to fix their website that got deemed inaccessible when it would have cost like $10,000 or $20,000 worth of dev money in the first place, but they got sued. And it's not uncommon. All websites are supposed to be accessible. This is something to keep in mind. It's also low hanging fruit too. Like we'll learn about it in the accessibility module, but there's a lot of things that you can take care of really quickly that make a world of difference. And that's going to be more than most people are doing. And if you are aware of it can help you stand out as well. We learned about PR submissions, awesome code reviews, which is great. I think there's a code review session next week. We do have a code review module as well. Or did we?
We did that last week.
Yeah.
There's
okay.
and there's communication for
That's
devs.
the one.
Yeah.
It's
And
cool because. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I just want to do a quick time check just because we still have to do issues, and I want to make sure.
Oh, yep. Yeah. Okay. Great. It's all the same stuff, anyways. Navigating GitHub PRs. Good. Awesome. Glad. Thank you. I love our kids.
Yay.
Hey.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, I'm going to jump straight into the issues for the upcoming week. Yeah. Is that cool with everyone? Yeah. Thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop the other sharing screen and share screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Now let me switch over to my other thing. Okay, cool. So we are on issues 5 and 6, right? So issue 5 is, as a user, I want to join an existing shopping list so I can share a shopping list with another person. So essentially want users to be able to join existing shopping lists, and they would enter an existing token into the form. So you know how in issue 3, I think, you can like generate a new token. And so now the idea is that if you have that token, you can use somebody else's shopping list. So my wife and I do have like a shopping list that we share for whoever goes to the store. This would allow for that kind of sharing. So the user enters an existing token into a form. The token is saved to local storage. And then the user is taken to the list and shown the list. If they don't already have a token, the home view shows on the form. And then they can enter the token to join the existing list. Input accepts the token with using semantic HTML, the label. They can submit the form, both a mouse and enter key, which I forget who, but somebody had, I think Shannon, you were like, I don't know why that works.
Patty.
And then,
Patty.
huh? Oh,
It
Patty.
was-
And yeah, and then like went on to like explain exactly why. So I always find that funny when you're like, I have no idea why, and then it turns out you did. And that was because you're using the form HTML tag. And yeah, if the list doesn't exist, then they're shown an error message that explains the problem. Cool. Any questions on this? Anything that people are not super clear on? Cool. Going to 6. And I'd also like to point out how proud I am of myself for getting that much time of awkward silence. It's really difficult for me. Cool. So number 6 is, as a user, I want to filter my shopping list to make it clear to locate an item in the list. So users are able to search through the list to help them cut down on the clutter. And the AC, or acceptance criteria, the form is added to the top of the list, to the list view above the shopping list. And then the form includes the label, a text field with a label, and then some sort of a button or something like that to be able to clear the field. And when it is When it's cleared, then the list is reset to an unfiltered state, meaning that you're showing everything. And then just want to, like, this super cool note, just to be able to, how to test that a label works with an input, is you can click on the label and then the focus will move to the input. And then also just with the acceptance criteria, that filtering means if it's anywhere, the words that you're filtering by or the characters that you're filtering by are anywhere inside of there, then it should match, not just the start of things. Any questions on this one? All right. And then have we been kind of volunteering as groups, right? And so who are the groups this week? Do we know?
I think it's me and Lydia.
Okay. And would you and Lydia, do you have a preference? Or do Shannon and Patty have a preference?
Do you guys have a preference? I don't really.
Shannon, I think you're muted.
Am I muted?
Not now.
No, now.
Oh,
Do you want to pick, Patty?
Um,
Pick it, pick it.
do it?
sorry, I feel very strongly about this. Maybe 6.
Cool. Okay. So Patty and Shannon are signed there. And then we have signees. Oops. Is this you, Isaiah?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Isaiah and Lydia. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Well, wonderful. Great job. This concludes our third weekly sync. And yeah, look, I think everyone is doing super great. Really, really happy with how everyone's working and collaborating. And we'll see you all on Slack.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the pairing threads up right now, as in like in the next
Nice.
30 seconds. I have it open.
Thank you.
See you all there.
Thank
Yeah.
you. See you later.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.